sports books are just kind of hammering the same nail. They're getting that celebrity, putting them in front of the screen, telling you about their promo offer. What WagerWire does is actually give the books a different hook.
The Business of Betting podcast is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming industry. 4 out of the top 5 U.S. operators personalize player experiences with Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming industry. Learn more about Optimove by requesting a demo at optimove.com/businessofbetting. And if you like what you see, you will get your first month free.
What is up, everybody? I am Jason Trost, the host of the Business of Betting podcast. I'm joined with Travis Geiger, who's the CXO and co-founder of WagerWire. Welcome to the pod, Travis.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Good to see you.
So you're based in LA, right? Are you a little worse for the wear this morning? What's going on?
Well, the Starties are about a week away, so I've been pulling double shift as co-founder of WagerWire, co-founder of the Starties. Maybe we'll talk about both, but I'm about, 3-4 hours of sleep like any good double co-founder would be.
You're a young guy. You can still pull those all-nighters and be fresh in the morning, right?
Thanks, man. If I'm looking young to you, I'll take it.
You're looking pretty young. You're like, what, 20, 30 years old, 29?
I'm shading up from 30, but yeah.
Well, when you're down there, you can just pop right back up in the morning and it's all good. Speaking of LA, were you affected by the recent fires?
Thank you for asking. I did evacuate, but no, we're all good here. It's an interesting time though in the city.
I lived in Santa Monica for 3 years from 2017 to 2020, and spent a lot of time in Pacific Palisades. And it's just, looking at the before and after, it's just like a bomb went off. It's really surreal. And I remember, there's clearly there are houses that are near the, the border where the wildlife, the trees and things, the shrubbery. There's clearly, you would think that they are in danger of fire, but I never thought like the middle of the neighborhood would ever get torched like it did. Like, did it surprise you as well?
Totally, man. I'm also in Santa Monica, and just seeing it kind of coming towards the city, it was really scary because you realize this whole thing could just go up. So it could have been a lot worse, but they haven't let us into the Palisades or to Malibu, but I hear it's completely gone.
And was there a risk of it actually crossing, I guess, San Vicente and getting into Santa Monica, or it never got that far?
Yeah, no, there was a real risk, and that's when it got really scary. So all the way up to the pier was in the evacuation zone, which I couldn't even imagine it ripping through that.
That's intense. I guess if you had to, you just run to the beach, but still, like it would. What a nightmare that was.
That's what now I'm thinking about what I do during a tsunami too, because you never anticipate those kinds of things until they happen.
Well, I always thought the best place to be in a tsunami was like Redondo Beach because you got all those hills. So you just got to go up a little bit. But I guess Santa Monica, like on Ocean Park, like, you're 200 feet above not Ocean Park, the Ocean Park. What's that?
That is, up Ocean Ave. That's where I should go. I should go to Ocean Park with all those bluffs up there.
You definitely should have a tsunami plan because, there's a non-zero probability of that happening.
There's an earthquake Oscar Sunday even. Jeez.
Yeah, it's basically God's way of saying like you guys shouldn't be living here, but it's such a beautiful place that you're like fuck it.
I think God wants me to move to New York. Let's see.
Well, if you think about it, it's like mudslides, tsunamis, earthquakes, fires,
and just Hollywood and
riots,
and just Hollywood in general is a reason to leave too.
Oh man, I miss it though. To be honest, it's if not my favorite, one of my favorite cities on earth. So I really miss LA. Cool. Tell me about WagerWire. Why did you set it up? What does it do?
Yeah. So when I was at UCLA, I was actually going to film school. I met my future co-founders. We were all living together kind of years after college. I came home late from set and Thursday Night Football was already underway. I didn't want to take the live line that the book was offering. Actually, then my friend, my future co-founder, Zach, had a really good bet and I just wanted to buy in on it so we could root for the same outcome. So, I sent him a Venmo for half of the bet and then we split the winnings when it happened. And we realized, hey, this is probably a way that a lot of people would want to bet. How often do you have a sharp friend that always has, some action down that you wish you got in on? Or how often do you have a bet that you wish you could get out of, selling all of it or part of it? And maybe you're not getting a fair cash out value. It's a way for people to take control of their actions. So we founded WagerWire, which is the secondary market for sports bets. And then out of that actually came all of this media outgrowth, because when you unlock the value of a bet, you're actually also unlocking the story of a bet. There's always that person that's right on the edge of turning $100 into $1 million, right? And what does that feel like? People like that deal or no deal, or that kind of like lottery attitude. We actually use that as part of the conversion funnel. So WagerWire is a clever marketing and affiliate hack. And I know there's some talk even about ESPN as recently as today. These sports books are just kind of hammering the same nail. They're getting that celebrity, putting them in front of the screen, telling you about their promo offer. What WagerWire does is actually give the books a different hook. Now, we don't need the books, but it makes it totally seamless. And when we're API integrated, then that's our ultimate business development goal.
And how does so it's basically a way to sell your bet before it happens so you can lock in some cash by limiting the upside. Is that a fair way to summarize it?
Yeah, that's a fair way to say it.
So, like, let's say I have a ticket or a bet slip from whatever, one of the sports books. What do you do then? Like, I come to you and then what happens?
Yeah, so you can actually do this on our site right now. So first thing you could do just for free if you wanted to is calculate the value of your bet and put in the cash out and see if it's a fair value. So we'll tell you what the replacement value of that bet is right now. And then with one click, you can post it for sale. You fill out your bet details. It'll ping us. We can make a listing for you that you can start to take bids on. One of the things we also do is you can sync, if it's a FanDuel bet, you can sync your FanDuel account to WagerWire. We verify that bet actually exists. So somebody knows they're buying a real asset. And like I said, in the future, you're actually going to be able to settle up with your FanDuel balance and you'll see it disappear from your account when you sell and appear in your account when you buy.
How do you do the actual validation? Because I'm thinking of like when I buy a ticket on secondary markets, even though Ticketmaster is kind of an evil company that rips everybody off, like I trust it because I know if the ticket doesn't work, I'm going to get my money back. And they kind of validate the barcode and there's only one barcode and all that kind of stuff. How do you do that in the sports betting world?
Yeah, so people actually log into their accounts through WagerWire, and then we either have our own technology that creates that sync, or we use third-party technologies that create that sync. But in WagerWire, you can log into DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, Caesars. You can actually see all of your bets in our universal wallet, but that's also what we're doing to make sure that those bets exist in the back end of the sports.
Okay, so I log in, I sell my bet. You get some other person to be the counterparty of that bet. How are you handling settlement?
Yeah, right now it's manual settlement through a process that we work through with IC360 and some of our other advisors. We had more lawyers than employees and like 18 months ago. So there's a way and there's precedent to legally settle up basically on the side. And we have ways of ensuring the money transfer, which might not be for the here and now, but you might find it fascinating. And then in the future, we're working on sportsbook balance to balance sales.
So it's quite manual and you kind of sit in the middle and manage so I guess theoretically, are you underwriting the risk of the money not getting to the person, or do you not take that on your balance sheet?
Yeah, that's one of the great things. We don't actually take possession of the bet, and we don't, we're not money transmission services. So everything is done through basically escrow and then through contracts. And that's why the API integration is kind of at the end of the rainbow, because seamlessly, as long as you're logged into that sports book of origin, as long as the person that's buying it has the sports book of origin or signs up, which is part of that affiliate hook, it's seamless. But yeah, I would say manual is a good way to put it now, which your system, much different than ours, is very instantaneous, right? And so that's definitely one of the benefits of the peer-to-peer over the secondary. I think what the secondary has as a strength for us is we don't have to say, don't bet at FanDuel, bet at our exchange. We get to say, take your FanDuel bets and we can help you do something else with them.
And is this done with the permission of FanDuel or not with the permission of these partner books?
Yeah, we were very careful to make sure we walked right up to the front door, not just of the books, but of all the state regulators, let them know what we're up to. And we're actually an affiliate with all the major sports books.
So they sanction this. They say, cool, sell the risk, even though they should be, in theory, making a lot of money and cash out. So what's their incentive to play ball with you guys?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Cash out really ends the story, right? I'm not selling it to a person, so you're not bringing a person into the ecosystem. We think what we're seeing in our data is not even a thought anymore. We're going to cash out more than ever before, because right now cash out is a totally defensive mentality. You're like, I think it's called like the P word button by David Portnoy. And you know that you're getting gouged, right? So it's just kind of this conciliatory thing. Not a lot of people are baking it into their betting strategy, but if you knew you always had an out, like you do on SmartGets, right? we find that people place higher margin bets, meaning parlays and futures, because they're planning on selling them later and they're waiting for them to get in the money. They're taking riskier bets because they have the security of an out, and they're making more bets and bigger bets in aggregate precisely because they're not locked into them.
It seems like one of your underlying assumptions, maybe it's not that clear in your marketing materials, but it's like bookmakers are ripping you off. We're going to help you get a fairer price for your bet. Like that doesn't seem like a message that sportsbooks would want to play ball with, but you're making the argument that, I guess your counter to that is the sportsbooks like the increased volume and the increased action more than they like the fact that you're pointing out that they have shitty prices.
Increased volume, increased action. And what we found is a lot of these people capitulate. So to the cash out price. So Wayne Shelton is a great example. He had a $100 bet to win 1.7 million. He needed the Thunder to win the NBA championship for it to hit. He turned down a $250,000 offer, a $200,000 offer. He watched the Thunder slide. He ended up hitting cash out at $80K. Wayne was going to hold that to the end unless he was in that kind of sales mentality. So there is a psychology flip, which you could still call a little bit of a leap. But what interests us the most and what's been really interesting is the viral marketing potential attached to each one of these bets. I mean, on Bleacher Report, on Barstool and Action, you always see this slip. And people are, it's like, the subject of the day. What does this guy do? Does he cash out? Does he hedge? Does he let it ride? A lot of these people don't have the liquidity to hedge when the bet gets that far along. A lot of the comments are negative. Like people are just dishing on the cash out. So this is actually a way for the sportsbooks to go on offense, change the narrative around cash out, which is really the main conversation happening around their slips on the internet. And then also have the opportunity to get some new users through some organic marketing. When people are talking about these slips that are about to hit, it's more genuine than Shaq going up there and telling you to download something, or these people talking about a promo code. Seeing Wayne Shelton with that bet going on his journey makes you want to be him. And so this, to me, as much as it changes maybe their bottom line with handle, it saves them millions of dollars in marketing in a more effective way, with these bets being the story and the hook.
And what is the legal framework that you guys are operating under?
Technically, once these bets are minted, the risk is with the book, and it's now like almost like a pink slip for a car. It's a contract that can get traded around. What we're trading around is no longer a bet or the risk; it's the right to the payout.
So it's like a sports betting option. That is one way to think about it.
So you could think of it that way, yeah.
So are you regulated by any of these state regulators, or you're basically just an affiliate and you tell them what you're doing, but you don't have a sports betting license?
Yeah, so we're a vendor supplier, and we have to get a vendor supplier license in every state that we operate in, that we sell bets in. Okay. But we don't need a gaming license, which is huge.
Got it. Well, that is nice. So, we'll get to this in a few minutes, but you're one of the founders of Starties, and one of the things of Starties is trying to vote on startups and their ideas and pitches and things like that. So, like, if you were a startup, there's kind of two big criticisms I'd have of your startup, and I'd love to get your feedback on it. The first one is there's this concept called search costs, which, in other words, it's how much effort does it take to match buyers and sellers. This is often the magic of marketplaces. So like, I want to buy a house, I go to Zillow.com, it matches me with, like I see all the houses on here. It's kind of easy for me to find all the sellers and vice versa. Whether it's like Google, like literally doing a search of like, I need a bed and breakfast in Memphis, Tennessee. The thing I wanted to say about your business was that I feel like it's very expensive to match buyers and sellers, because you have very esoteric bet, like this parlay, that's this 1.7 million parlay that you're talking about. It's a very esoteric bet that very few people might be, A, have the money to partake, pay you 200 grand, B, like have enough of a pricing sense to have this idea of what the fair market value is. So my first sort of pushback on your business model would be like, the amount of effort it would take to match buyers and sellers is enormous, because your search realm is massive and matching buyers and sellers is very expensive. The second pushback I would have is that there's a model called a betting exchange, which kind of lets you do all this stuff in real time. Like, why isn't a better solution to this problem? Like, instead of Bobby going and placing this $1.7 million parlay on FanDuel, why doesn't he do it with a betting exchange? So what's your response to those two pushbacks on the model?
Yeah. So we have pricing algorithms that help people price it, and they're pretty complex, and including like correlated, uncorrelated parlays, blah, blah, blah. We can even do it for DFS, et cetera. And the DFS entries that we sell are clearing in about 2 hours. It's interesting, like the 1.7 million that we talked about. I mean, that was Rangers to win the World Series. It was the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, and then he needed the Thunder. That got onto ESPN. Like they were talking about that on ESPN without us having to pay for, with New York Post, etc. So we're harnessing the virality of these bets to, get them into the mainstream. I mean, is that going to happen for every bet? No, but it does create this kind of natural inbound. The matching of buyers and sellers is an interesting thing that I think at scale we're going to be addressing even more, and we're kind of building towards that. When you have the volume of, hundreds of bets an hour, let alone like in a day, right now we're kind of hand selecting these to really show proof of concept of what this can be from a marketing point of view. It's not really worth it for us to move lower value, like, lower dollar bets yet. But what we're doing with this media is actually creating a hot start in the community. We actually are, we have a loyal group of people that hang out with us regardless of these bet sales. And then when they're there, we kind of have this built-in community. Now, why is this better or different than an exchange? Look, I just think the general public is used to betting the way that they bet, and there's a educational component to an exchange. I think, Kalshi and some of the public markets are changing that. I personally think that exchanges can be way more intuitive than than traditional sports betting, where there is an even bigger educational curve there. I think with like, you walk up to someone and say, what's plus 300 mean or what's minus 1100 mean? They have no idea. But at the same time, when you buy a bet, now these sports books have spent millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars fleecing us with ads. They've done pretty good job of signing a lot of people up. And now how do we make that bet feel like a concert ticket, feel like an NFT, feel like a sneaker, feel like a digital asset that you flip? I think there's something to that assetification of a bet that is organic to the here and now of you buy it, you own it, that is a little bit different than playing the market the way you would on Smarket. So I think they coexist in the same world. We're just going to draft off of the big guys, and I don't know, kind of like what we see as the predominant behavior right now. But yeah, I honestly think, like I told you, like I think people will go out and hedge right away on your market once they buy a bet on the secondary, because they're going to get edge and they're going to take the other side. Maybe they take the no side on your market.
Cool. Starties. Tell me about the Starties.
Well, the Starties is about the coolest effing thing of all time.
I've been hearing that. What
we realized is that, I mean, I really appreciate you giving me this platform, and I appreciate what Jesse does. Startups don't really get their shine, and we're forced to go kind of on these world tours, paying a lot to go to these conferences. And if we're lucky, we'll all compete for the rising star category. And more likely than not, if we're nominated for the big boy categories, we're just going to lose to a multinational company anyway. So how do you actually allow these startups to have their moment and then do an award show in a way that feels equitable? I feel like a lot of these things, Jason, you've been through it too. They feel bought and paid for. Like, unless you have a table at the event, you're probably not walking home with the trophy. And then you're sucking up to the same group of like Illuminati. No shade, but that's just like how it feels. And so what if we created an awards for startups by startups, and the startups themselves were the ones that chose? I think what you have is actually creation of a community, and then eventually a greater ecosystem where we go all rise up and help each other. I think what we're talking about right now is really interesting, because it would seem like in some ways we might be competitors or two ideas attacking the same space, but really we're solving for the future of the industry. It's kind of a rise up together moment. So we wanted to galvanize everybody under one banner, and that's kind of what the Starties is.
Great. And how's it going?
I think it's going fantastic. We'll see how March 12th goes.
I tip my hat. If I had a hat on, I would tip it. I think it's a great idea. I mean, you're totally right. A lot of the industry conferences are a little bit long in the tooth, and it's pretty clear that they're kind of pay to play. So that's definitely true. I've long said on this podcast and publicly that I think this industry needs more startups. I mean, like, all the big players are basically large established companies that have been around for ages and ages. And there's not that much new blood. Like, what do you like? I don't know if I would necessarily solve it with a conference, but building a better ecosystem is certainly part of the equation. What do you think this industry is missing to get more startup blood and more startup success in sports betting?
Yeah. What is the industry missing? I think there's a built-in feeling of, Jesse talks about this. Everyone kind of does want to help each other in this industry, which is great, but it's kind of missing we're missing leverage, right? We have all of these tools that can actually move the industry forward. But then what the operators have, or what the incumbents have, is actually a paralysis in a couple of different ways. They have a paralysis decision-making in the way that their corporate structure is. they have tech roadmap issues. They have an inability to innovate. And then there's just no reason, there's no pressure really for them to do anything different as long as they can, walk out of their board meeting without getting chewed out. Like they feel okay. But that wouldn't be acceptable in any other industry. So how can we show them that really is adapt or die? That just because it's betting doesn't mean that it's like fentanyl. People aren't, they might be addicted to it, but, you got to put that blue magic out there if you really want this industry to hum, you know what I mean? And the starters, we got that blue magic, baby. Sorry, it's gambling awareness month. Yeah, but
yes, the F word. Well, from my perspective, I think the reason there's not that much startup activity is the barriers to entry are very high. I remember like there was a guy that I cut my teeth in the London startup scene. There was a guy that sold glasses online. That was pretty novel. Or somebody that did, if you even look like WhatsApp, like it's just a chat bot, obviously that made a lot of money and got a lot of users. But what all these industries have in common is like the barriers to entry of just launching. It's like you can just launch. You were saying you had more lawyers than startup employees. Like I doubt you're kidding that much. And it's crazy the amount of energy that you have to put in just to getting live. And I think it's there's a VC who talks about this, Bill Gurley, who talks about regulatory arbitrage. And he talks about the big companies really want, in hushed tones, good regulation and consumer protection. But really what they're saying is they want to make the barriers of entry of new entrants harder. And I think that's more true in sports betting than it is in most industries, where I think a lot of this sort of customer, especially in the UK, a lot of this regulation around safer gambling and know your customer really benefits the larger companies and taxes the smaller companies. And maybe regulators are doing it subconsciously, maybe they're doing it consciously. But the end effect is, even in the UK, where the barriers to entry are much, much lower than the US, for example, there's very, very few startup operators in the UK. And it's a shame, really. And I'm glad that you're getting in the mix, because I think this industry is tired. The business model is ridiculous. And I think, to your point, there's not enough pressure from below of startups kind of trying to eat their lunch, because there just aren't that many startups. Like besides you and WagerWire and maybe Profit and Sport Trade and a few other people, I can't name that many startup operators that are in sports betting trying to do novel things. I mean, they exist, but if you look at any other industry, like spreadsheet software or note-taking software, like there's millions of startups, but in sports betting, there's like, you can count them on two hands. It's crazy. So I totally agree with you. And if I can be supportive any way I can, I know as a judge on the competition, but I'm very happy to support it. And I think it's a great initiative.
No, I appreciate you. And thanks for being a part of the Academy, the Starty Academy of Startup Arts and Sciences.
I will say some of the entry videos were quite funny to watch. I mean,
Yeah.
Some got the message, some did not get the message. I kind of want to give some marketing and branding advice to some of these people that put in entries. But, it's nice to see so many different names and faces trying to attack different problems in the industry.
Yeah. No shots fired, but don't do it in a wife beater. And but some of the videos you go ahead. Don't worry.
Don't do it on a busy street where there's cars honking their horn, Like look straight into the camera. Don't hold it. Like don't move your your hand like this while you're filming yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
I will say shout out to the best on the go one I saw was Will of Fantasy Spin with his cute dog and in the snow. That was total points. But no, there was some direct addresses to the camera that really laid it out, like took it like a pitch. And I think that was reflected in the finalists, and we'll see if it's reflected in the winners.
Yeah, very good. Before I let you go, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I still want to be a movie director.
All right. What did you think of have you seen Anora? Is it worthy of Best Picture? Was it as good as the award account that they got?
I would say, know it, brother. I've lived it. Listen, I was actually excited I'm always excited when it goes to an indie film like that. It's kind of like Oppenheimer and Barbie really crowded the zone last year with the tent poles. That could have been the last gasp of that kind of Hollywood filmmaking. So to see Anora do as well as it did, Sean Baker, he won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. He's a really talented American director. He's representing almost like a new class, along with Brady Corbet of The Brutalist that's kind of coming up. Quentin Tarantino presented it, but you're not seeing the old faces that you're used to anymore. The perennials like the Tarantinos, the Wes Andersons, the Paul Thomas Andersons. Those guys are kind of getting, their movies are getting more and more spaced out. It's opening a lane here. The industry is absolutely, it's totally in total turmoil. some of the the companies that started as indies are actually buying studios, thinking about like Skydance. Neon has had a crazy run, A24. I mean, MGM can't even put a movie in theaters anymore. It's crazy. And now Bezos thinks he's going to take control of James Bond and do something with it. It's insane. And shout out Barbara Broccoli. What she did with that was a great run. But this is a total inflection point. Just like it's the fourth turning. I mean, we believe in generational theory at WagerWire, and we do believe that we're in the fourth turning in all things, including sports betting. And so we're here to ride the revolution and pick up the pieces on the other side too.
That's cool. So if you were to be a movie director, who would you model? Like, who would you be similar to? Who's somebody you aspire to be?
I like the auteurs, right? I like the writers, directors. So I mentioned Wes Anderson and Tarantino. Those are two of my favorites. My personal mentor, who I've been lucky to work with 4 times, is Todd Haynes, who directed the movie Carol. That's probably what he's most famous for. His cinematographer was nominated for Maria this year, his second one in a row, 4th overall. That's one of my mentors too. So I love the idea of the writer-director. The old French idea of the director as the author of the piece is a little romantic to me, but yeah.
Cool. Love it. Awesome. Well, thanks for stopping by, Travis, and good luck with the show next week.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate you. Like open conversation. This is what it's all about, man. I love it. And thanks for not going soft. I think what we're both doing is pretty interesting.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
The Business of Betting podcast is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming industry. 4 out of the top 5 U.S. operators personalize player experiences with Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming industry. Learn more about Optimove by requesting a demo at optimove.com/businessofbetting. And if you like what you see, you will get your first month free.